Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's broadcast. My name is Trevor, and we want to discuss eBay and PayPal fees with you today for just a few minutes. Now, every so often, and I'd mentioned this a few minutes before I started the recording to those of you that are here live with me, but every once in a while, the eBay fees will shift a little bit. They'll change, and new policies will be created. So that's happened fairly recently, and so we wanted to share with you what the new fee structure is like. It's very similar from the old one, but this is basically how it works. Number one, when you sell on eBay, and let me just, hopefully you guys can see this okay. Right, we're talking about this part right here, number one, eBay fees, right? And then there's also PayPal fees. We have to consider both when we're selling on eBay. Although, let me just say this before I actually comment on the fees. Can we just talk about why there are fees for a minute? Because I've had a few clients over the years that are like, whoa, I didn't know there were fees for selling on eBay or using PayPal. Well, there are, but nothing to be overly concerned about. It's still free to list items and to sell, but if you do make a sale, you usually have to pay a certain amount as a commission. But answer this for me, for those of you who are here live with me, why are there fees? Why does eBay charge fees for what they do? Why does PayPal charge fees for what they do? What's the answer to that? Yeah, I mean, so they can make money, of course. But so a lot of the fees aren't just going right into their pocket, right? A lot of the fees go to maintaining a giant database and a giant website. And if you've ever seen commercials for eBay, there's commercials on the television, there's commercials and ads throughout the internet. A lot of the money that we pay in fees actually goes out to facilitate the use of eBay's marketplace. So while I'm not a huge fan of having to pay fees either, you have to understand it's, they're providing a pretty unique service to us. If you were selling on your own website, a portion of your time, energy, and money would probably be directed towards trying to get people to your website. The cool thing about selling on eBay is none of your time and energy and money is really sent out for marketing, right? Because all you have to do is post the product up onto eBay, and if somebody finds it, they'll buy it from you. So paying a fee for that opportunity is pretty appropriate, in my opinion. Same with PayPal. You know, they're processing a transaction. A grocery store, when they run your credit card, when you're buying groceries, they pay a fee to their bank or their merchant account. It's no different with PayPal. So these aren't uncommon things. I just want you guys to understand how the fees work so that you're pricing things correctly. Okay. So number one, let's talk about eBay fees for a minute. There's two types. Okay. So A there, if you're looking at my screen still, A is the insertion fee. Okay, and this is what's changed somewhat recently, but basically you can list items to sell on eBay for free, up to 50 in a calendar month. Okay, so you get 50 free. So you can list up to that 50 mark, and you're not going to get hit with an insertion fee. After that, you can expect that each subsequent listing is going to cost you 30 cents just to put it up. Now, insertion fees, it's the cost of putting the item up. It doesn't matter or not if it sells. It's the cost of just listing it. So what I'm saying is you get 50 free for the month. On your 51st listing, eBay will charge you 30 cents for that listing. On the 52nd listing, you'll be charged 30 cents. On the 53rd, and so on and so forth, until the month resets again, and you get your 50 free listings. Okay? Now, what counts as a listing? Two things. Okay? So make a note of this. One, if you list a product brand new that you've never put onto eBay, that counts as a listing. Okay? If you have a product that you've listed, say, for 7 days, and it doesn't sell, but then you relist it, you hit the little relist button, that also counts as a listing. So keep that in mind. If you're doing 7-day listings on all of your stuff, it's not going to be just one listing for the month. It's going to be probably 4 listings for the month for each individual item, because it's going to be listed 4 times during that calendar month. which is why it makes it kind of tough, right? Because if you're doing 7-day listings, you might be able to do 10 items listed in a month that get relisted 4 times, maybe 11 or 12, and excuse me, maybe 11 or 12, and that would be it, because you would start getting hit with fees otherwise. So my advice to you guys when you're first starting, and usually we're very fee averse, right? Because we don't feel like we can pay out fees, and we don't want to early on. I would recommend most of your listings be 30-day listings. So that means, in theory, I could go onto eBay. I could have 50 items in my eBay account up for sale at 30-day, excuse me, at 30-day listings, and I wouldn't ever get charged an insertion fee. Okay, does that make sense, everybody? But on that 51st, that's when I get hit with it. Okay, we'll talk about, I mean, eventually we want you guys to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of items in your store, and there's a way to mitigate that. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. But I want to make sure that makes sense. Okay, stop me if I need to clarify anything. That's the first type of fee. The second type of fee is called a final value fee, okay? And you only get charged this final value fee if and only if you make a sale on an item, okay? eBay's standard on normal sales is 10%. So, for example, if I listed an item today and I sold it for $70, eBay would invoice me at the end of the month for $7. They would take 10% of that. So we just need to be aware of that, so that when we're pricing our items, we know that we're pricing it in a way that we can absorb that 10% and still be profitable. Okay? I'll never forget the first time I sold on eBay. It was like an iPhone or some sort of a cell phone many years ago, and I didn't even think about the fact that I would be hit with a 10% fee. And I sold it, and it was hundreds of dollars, and I got that invoice for whatever it was, $40 after I'd sold it. And I was like, wait, what? $40? Well, it's because they were taking 10% of the $400 that I sold it for. And so, again, that's fair because eBay's doing all the marketing and advertising for us. I think 10% is very fair. So do you pay this section if you don't close a sale? No, this is only when you make a sale. So it is true, you can sell on eBay for absolutely nothing, up to $50 per month, and then up to the point where you make a sale, and then you'll pay the 10%. Everybody clear on that? Does that kind of make sense? The recent change is actually this number right here. That number of 50 used to be lower. It used to be 20. eBay has raised it to 50, and that's a positive change for all of us. Okay. So we talked about the why already, why eBay fees, right? Let's talk about PayPal fees for just a second. So PayPal is facilitating the transaction, right? And they provide a service. When somebody buys an item on eBay and sends you money, it's going through PayPal, and that's a service that they provide that costs you collecting the money and selling the item, this amount right here, 2.9% of the sale price, and 30 cents per transaction. So if I sold something for $100 today, eBay would get 10 of those dollars because of the final value fee right here. And then PayPal would take $2.90 for their 2.9%. They would also take an additional 30 cents because they just do that for each transaction. Okay? I roughly add it up in my head. Whenever I think of PayPal, I think 3%. That's a little high, right? But if I think 3%, that's going to be pretty close every single time. Okay? Questions about that? That's PayPal. Now, the difference in when you're billed for these, if I made a sale today for that $100 and PayPal was taking $2.90 plus 30 cents, so what's that? $3.20. If they were going to take that, they would take that immediately. If that money was sent to me, that $100, they would pull that out immediately. So I actually wouldn't see $100 in my PayPal account. I would see whatever it is, $96.80. That's what I would see in my account because they would have pulled that money. Okay. It's different, however, on eBay. So on that same example, if I sold something for $100, only $96.80 is hitting my account. That other $10 that I owe eBay for this right here, the final value fee, I wouldn't get billed for that until the end of the month. Okay, so those transactions, those are invoiced on a monthly basis. So eBay would send me a bill at the end of the month on my eBay account, and I would pay that money then. Okay, that's the difference on those. This is a good question. Horace asks, is there an advantage to do a 7-day listing versus a 30-day? Yeah, there is actually. It's said, and I think this is generally true, if you were to take one item and list it as a 7-day listing over the course of a month, 7 days it comes down, 7 days it comes down, 7 days it comes down, and then another 7 days, that's about 4 relists every month. Versus the one that you did for 30 days, eBay has even made it pretty clear that that 7-day listing will probably get more exposure during that time. So you're actually looking at getting a little more visibility with a 7-day listing that's repeated 4 times. Is it worth the extra final value fees? Probably not, and so that's why at this point for most of our clients we'd recommend, especially if you're starting, to do the 30-day listing, because it's not worth the extra. Elaine asks, will PayPal charge the same amount on an e-commerce site, like my own website, if I'm using PayPal? Yes, they will. You can expect that same fee structure, okay? Now, you can qualify to lower this amount if you do a high enough volume in sales, but you have to do a fairly high volume to get that to decrease, okay? Okay, so knowing what we know now, let's just do a couple of brief examples, okay? So I'm gonna bring my page down, and I want you guys to answer some of these questions for me, okay? Here's my first example. Let's say I'm gonna give you some criteria here. So let's say this listing that you put up is your 79th listing of the month, okay? Let's say you sold it for $65. Okay. Figure out for me 3 things. 1, was there an insertion fee? 2, final value fee. And 3, PayPal fee. And then I want to know what's the total fees I should expect. Okay. Go ahead and calculate that. Let's see if we all get something similar. I haven't even calculated this yet either myself, so I'm gonna plug this into my calculator. Okay, I think I've got it. I think I've got it all added up here. Let me just add up the numbers. If you have it, just type it in there. If you're here live with me, type it in. I'm actually looking for, all right, well, first of all, I'll just have you answer this. Was there an insertion fee on this? There was, right? And why was there an insertion fee? Because for the month, it was our 79th listing. So this is 30 cents, right? Okay. Is there a final value fee? There is. And how much is that going to be in this case? Good. Most of you guys are saying the same thing. $6.50, right? 10% of 65 is $6.50. Good. What about PayPal? Is there a PayPal fee? And if so, how much? Well, PayPal's 2.9% of the sale price, right? So 65 times 0.029. It's about $1.89 plus what? Plus 30 cents, right? Because every one of these has a 30-cent fee attached. So 189 plus 30 cents, we're looking at what? 219, right? Out to PayPal. So our total fees on this are what? 30 cents plus 650 plus $2.19, which brings us to $8.99. Everybody getting that? Looks like most of you guys are, or at least you're close. $8.99. Okay. Not too bad, right? Okay, let's do another one real quick. Let's make this one more interesting. That one was easy. All right, let's say it's your 39th listing of the month. Let's say you got this from a supplier and your cost was $30 from your supplier. Okay. And it also costs your supplier $5 for shipping. Okay. So really, that's your cost to get it shipped out to the customer. So those are the numbers right there. We'll say it was sold for $119. I want to know how much I actually made on this. Okay, what was my profit on this item? So you're going to have to incorporate all the fees into this to come up with that, right? What was my profit? Let me give you a minute to figure it out. I'm doing this off the cuff too, so let me do some math on it as well. Okay. I'm seeing some similar answers. This is what I got. And if you're looking at your answer like, what? That's not what I got. Well, let's do an example together, or let's do this example together. Okay. I think I'm right, but let's check it, right? So you sold this item let's just do the numbers right here underneath. You sold it for $119, so that's what you're starting with, right? Well, let's quickly minus off supplier cost. So supplier cost on this was really $35 because it was going to cost you $30 from the supplier and $5 for shipping. And I guess the piece that we maybe missed on this is that we were offering free shipping to our customers. So that all comes out of our money. So 35, we need to minus that amount, right? We'll call this supplier cost and shipping. Okay. So that part's out of the way. First of all, is there an insertion fee? There's not, right? Because it's only our 39th listing. So no insertion fee. But there is an eBay fee, right? You always are paying 10% when you sell the item. So 119 times 10% is $11.90, and that's for eBay, right? Okay. I think we're all on the same page now. PayPal might be what screwed a few of you guys up, but let's see. So PayPal, 119 times 0.029. That's 2.9%. That's going to be $3.45. Now, if it's easier for you to do math quickly in your head, you could say 119 times 0.03. Just do the 3%, and that would be pretty close. But 345 plus 30 cents, right, for the transaction fee. So that equals a total of 375, right? Which is going to then equal profit for us of, let's do the math, 119 minus 35 minus 11.90, and then minus 375, which gives us exactly what we thought, right? Does that make sense for those of you guys that weren't quite there on that one? Okay. I think we're all set. So, having done these examples, I just, I want you guys to just be aware, when you're first getting started, you have to know that there's going to be some fees involved on eBay. And we can mitigate those fees if we're smart, which is kind of what I want to talk about just for a second here now that we've done these examples. Oh, and don't let me forget here. Let me show you guys this. This is eBay's official fees page. So if you ever have any questions about fees, here's the link right here. You're welcome to copy this down if you want. That's the link to their official page, which I didn't show you just because it's slightly more complicated because it brings into all of their different exceptions and little nuances. What I showed you is basically what it's going to be for you 99.9% of the time. But if you're interested in reading in more detail, there it is right there, okay? And this is the page. Standard selling fees, okay? Now, let me ask you a question. What happens when, actually, no. Let me before I go into that, let me show you in your account. If you're ever curious and you're on eBay and you're wondering what your eBay fees are like, you can quickly find them on your account. You simply log into your eBay account, and you can come up usually here to the top left, and let's zoom in a bit more so you can see this better. Right up here at the top left, it'd be easier if I just circle it right here. Usually it's going to say hi, and then it's going to have your name there. And so what you'll do is you'll actually click on that, which I will do, and it brings up this little drop-down box. And if you select account settings, that will take you to where you'll see currently what you owe eBay for your fees. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is you go up here to the top right, and you click on that link right there, My eBay, okay? So let's do that. My eBay. We'll click on it. We'll go to this My eBay page. And for many of you, you're going to have this option right here where it says account. Okay, you guys see that? So let's click on it. Account. And it basically takes you to the same section. In which case, you will get a summary of your fees right here, what you owe, and then you can actually come down here where this section is right here, and you can click on some of those links to see specifically what your fees are. You know, what ones were insertion fees. So if eBay is like, hey, you owe me $140 this month, you can say, okay, well, how did you get to that number? Well, you can come down here and you can look at how they come up, how they came up with that. Every insertion fee, every single final value fee, that's all there. The only thing that is not there is, of course, PayPal, and PayPal would be taken off in your PayPal account when the transaction took place, okay? The other place you can go is this spot right here. You're going to get an invoice every month, and you can select that invoice and look it over and make sure that it's correct. If it is, then you can come right down here to payments, and you can make a payment with PayPal or something else, a credit card, to pay off your eBay fees. All right? Everybody on board with that? Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to erase these. Stop me if it doesn't. Now, the big question that I get is, Trevor, how can I reduce the amount of fees that I pay on eBay? Well, the answer to that question comes in a couple of different parts, okay? So, first of all, for you, those of you who are newer, the best way to reduce your eBay fees is to mitigate this one right here, the insertion fee. So let's go back here. Do you remember this one that we talked about? Just probably don't do the 7-day listings to start. Use 30-day ones, okay? And then do 30 days. You know, you don't have to go over 50. You could have 50 items in your store for 30 days and never get an insertion fee, to where it truly is free for you to sell on eBay. All you have to do is price your products up enough to where when you get hit with the final value fee as well as the PayPal fees, that you're still profitable, okay? That's the first thing. So that's my best advice for those of you guys who are newer. For those of you guys who have some selling experience and your store is getting bigger and you want to list many more than just simply 50 listings, it would be wise to go ahead and set up an eBay store, okay? Now I'm going to paste this right here, eBay store, right there, okay? You can write that down if you want. That's the page we're going to be looking at here momentarily. It shows you the breakdowns of how an eBay store works. Now, here's what an eBay store is. At its core, it's simply just an elevated eBay account. Nothing magical happens. If you create an eBay store, you might think, oh, do I have this really cool eBay website? You kind of do, but that's not really the reason why we set up an eBay store. Mainly, we set up an eBay store so that we can have an account that's elevated so that we're not getting hit with so many fees. All right? I'll explain what I mean. Let's go over to that page. And you can see this right here. This is our various levels of eBay stores. An eBay store at its basic level should be about $25 a month. So you see that, $24.95. And what that does, it gives you some benefits on your account, okay? By the way, if you pay for a year up front, it's only $19.95. The first big advantage is this number right here, okay? That 250, right? Because remember before on a normal account, we were saying you only get 50 free. On an eBay store, you get 250, which is significant because otherwise, to get to that point, if you had 250 and you didn't have an eBay store, 200 of those listings would have been hit with a 30-cent fee. So you're mitigating that substantially just by getting a store. Then the the insertion fee goes down if you have a store from 30 cents to 20 cents, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a 33% savings right there, which I think equates to a fair bit. And then the other thing was, well, it's this one right here. You get lower final value fees. Instead of 10%, it can be as low as 4%, up to 9%, depending on what you're selling. So naturally, I get the question, well, I'm just starting, so should I set up an eBay store today? No, probably not. Wait for you and your coach to discuss when you should set up your eBay store, because it only makes sense if you've got a lot of listings going. It wouldn't make sense to spend $25 a month when you're not built up enough to take advantage of some of these discounts. Okay. If you're in and around, 100 listings a month or so, you're listing that many things, yes, you should consider an eBay store. And most of you within your first 3-4 weeks will probably be there anyway. So this might be something you do here in a month. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, I don't want to pay $25 a month. Well, don't think of it like that, because if you're making sales and you have a lot of listings up, you're not really paying $25 a month. You can pay that out of money that you're making and be no worse for the wear. Okay? All right, so that is all that I'm going to talk about when it comes to eBay stores right now. We've got other trainings that cover those in a bit more detail. Yeah, and thank you, Denise, for the reminder. These web addresses work for eBay.com if you're in Australia or the UK or Canada. There's a different URL, and the policies sometimes vary ever so slightly. So thank you for the reminder. If you need that information, make sure you contact your coach directly. Cindy, that's a good question. So some of your guys' accounts when you start have some sort of a selling limit on it because it's new. Your limits will affect your store. So if the store gives you $250, yet you only have a limit of, like you said, $60, then it might be wise to make sure you have high enough selling limits before you end up getting that eBay store. Good. All right, guys. Well, I think that is plenty. I hope the examples were helpful. I don't ever want to see you guys get burned because you didn't think about the eBay fees. eBay fees are just a part of selling on eBay, and it's not a bad thing. As long as you price everything correctly and high enough to account for these fees, we're never going to lose any money because of it. We only stand to gain. So I appreciate you coming along to this. Hopefully this was helpful, and we will see you all next time. Good luck on your eBay fees.